Continue with our Discernment of Spirits Mondays, and we have been talking about Rule 4, which has to do with spiritual desolation. And so we kind of covered what spiritual desolation is, and then we went through some examples of spiritual desolation. And just to finish this rule, and then get into a few other things, I want to reread to you the end of the rule. At the end of this rule, St. Ignatius says, "Just as consolation is contrary to desolation, in the same way the thoughts that come from consolation are contrary to the thoughts that come from desolation." And so I kind of want to just kind of focus a little bit on this reality of thoughts. And so kind of a lot of the times when I was describing consolation and desolation, there's this kind of affective experience, right, of how you feel in some sense, right? But out of this experience, this affective experience of consolation or desolation, there arise thoughts. And I've indirectly talked about these thoughts, right? Maybe from the affective experience of God feels far away, right? Your affective experience of spiritual desolation, God feels far away. But then thoughts come like, maybe is God real? Or, am I cut out to be, a saint, right? Thoughts arise from this affective experience. And so I just want to point just that reality that it's both an affective experience, but also thoughts that come into our mind, right? Both with consolation, encouraging thoughts, thoughts of heavenly things, and thoughts of discouragement and of things that are just not true when we're experiencing the affective reality of desolation. This will become important as we continue to the rules, because the way in which we think about certain things really can affect us. And so I just want to point to that distinction, that again, consolation and desolation is an affective experience, but thoughts arise. And some thoughts are linked to consolation and some to desolation. So at this point, we have kind of walked through the first 4 rules, right? The first rule, when a person is moving away from God. Second rule, when a person is moving toward God. Third rule, spiritual consolation. And the fourth, spiritual desolation. When I first began speaking about discernment of spirits, I was saying how there's kind of 3 kind of steps to discernment of spirits. First step is becoming aware. Just becoming aware that these things are happening in our heart and in our minds, right? Second thing is understanding, trying to parse through what I'm experiencing. What is it that I'm experiencing? And then the third thing is taking action. And so these kind of first 4 rules focus on the first 2 steps, right? Beginning to pay attention to what's happening in my heart, becoming aware. And then beginning to sift through things, right? Understanding, I think I'm experiencing spiritual consolation. I think I'm experiencing spiritual desolation. Or I think I'm experiencing just human consolation. It hasn't become spiritual yet. Or same with desolation, right? And so the next rules, really, all the rest of the rules are going to focus on that third step of taking action. Talking about becoming aware, of understanding, and now we're going to begin to focus on taking action. And like if you think maybe, when you think of maybe about being sick, like if you're sick, God wants you to take action to try to find healing, right? You talk about physical sickness. So there's things you can't control, like you can go to the doctor and get medicine, and then you can do all you can to be healthy, and maybe there's things outside of your control, but you still try to get better, because otherwise things get worse, right? And actually, if you attend to yourself, you could actually find health pretty quickly, depending on what you have, right? So there's something similar happening with spirits. There's something similar happening, especially with spiritual desolation. We are not meant to just be in spiritual desolation and be like, life just sucks. Okay, well, I can't do anything about it. No, God wants us to live in freedom, so we're supposed to fight against it. And so the next 5 rules, from rule 5 to 5 to 9, the rules 5 to 9, it's about how to fight back against spiritual desolation. Of course, we don't have complete control over spiritual desolation, just like we don't have complete control over our health, but we still should fight for spiritual health, if you will, like we do for spiritual, like we do for physical health. And so we'll pick up with Rule 5 next week when we begin to see kind of the first rule St. Ignatius gives us on how to fight against spiritual desolation.